Ready for a deep dive. We're going exploring something pretty unexpected this time.
Oh, I like unexpected. What are we diving into?
Cuban tourism.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I wouldn't have, put Cuba at the top of the list for, groundbreaking tourism.
Right. That's what I thought too. But get this. Everything points to them making a major strategy shift. And honestly, you might be surprised by what we uncover. We're talking less beach umbrella, more hiking boots kind of thing.
Okay, you've piqued my interest. Where do we even start with something like this?
Well, we've got a ton of sources on this one. Government reports, academic papers, even some interesting stuff from Cuba's parliament. It's a lot to unpack.
Wow, okay. So what's the mission here? What's got Cuba making such a dramatic shift in their tourism game?
Seems like they're aiming to attract a whole new type of traveler, one who's more into adventure and cultural immersion than, just soaking up the sun.
Interesting. So less lounging on the beach, more exploring hidden waterfalls and whatnot.
Exactly. But of course, there are some, shall we say, bureaucratic hurdles along the way.
Ah, yes. I imagine change doesn't come easy, especially in a place like Cuba.
Exactly. So to kind of understand the scope of this shift, we've got to start with something that seems totally unrelated at first.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Teen pregnancy.
Wait, what?
Yeah, you heard that right. See, there was this report from the Cuban National Assembly highlighting teen pregnancy as a, major concern impacting maternal and infant health.
Okay, I'm trying to connect the dots here. How does that tie into tourism?
So think about it this way. A healthy population is key for a thriving tourism industry. The government's obviously taking steps to address this health concern.
Makes sense. A healthy Cuba is good for everyone, tourists and locals alike.
Right. So now let's circle back to that tourism shift we were talking about. So they're definitely moving away from just the classic beach vacation. They're really pushing this well-being tourism thing.
Well-being tourism. I'm not super familiar with that term.
Yeah, it's think yoga retreats, meditation, that kind of vibe. But also a big focus on Cuban culture and their history. And then, of course, there's this big push for adventure travel.
Okay, now we're talking. I can definitely see the appeal there. Cuba has some pretty incredible landscapes, right?
Right. And there's this fascinating research paper that actually highlights this one specific place, the Canamar River Valley, as a case study in the positive impacts of this very kind of tourism.
Case study, huh? I always find this super interesting. What did they find?
So we're talking kayaking through these amazing landscapes, horseback riding, exploring hidden waterfalls,
Right.
Bucket list stuff.
That sounds incredible.
And the best part, it's not just attracting tourists. It's actually contributing to sustainable development in the region.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, providing income, creating jobs, and really supporting all those local businesses that give a place its character. So it's not just about the adrenaline rush for tourists, it's about making a real difference.
That's what I call a win-win. Tourists get their adventure fix, and the local economy gets a boost.
Right. Now, remember those bureaucratic hurdles we mentioned earlier?
How could I forget? We can't have a deep dive without a few obstacles, right?
Exactly. Well, this is where that Ministry of Tourism report comes in.
Okay, what's the inside scoop?
Well, tourist arrivals are starting to go up a little, mainly from places like Russia, Mexico, and Argentina.
But there's always a but, isn't there?
There are some bumps in the road, like supply chain issues are a huge problem right now. And then there's the whole thing with needing better infrastructure and a lack of trained workers.
Yes. The not-so-glamorous side of revitalizing a tourism industry.
Right. So it's like they're trying to build this amazing, multifaceted tourism experience, but they're still missing some key ingredients.
That's a great way to put it. So where do they go from here? What's the plan?
Well, that's where the debate begins. So it seems like they're at a crossroads, right? Trying to figure out which path to take.
Yeah, it's like they're holding two different maps trying to decide which route to take.
Exactly. So on the one hand, you've got this idea of attracting more wealthy tourists,
Right.
The kind who are all about luxury and, spending money.
Right, going for that high-end market. It makes sense, especially when you think about Cuba needing a bit of an economic boost.
But I'm guessing it's not as simple as just rolling out the red carpet for anyone with platinum credit card.
Exactly. It's not quite that straightforward. I mean, on the surface, attracting tourists with deep pockets sounds like a surefire way to bring in some much-needed revenue, but
There's always a but.
always, relying too heavily on one type of tourist can be pretty risky.
How so?
Well, imagine what happens if that market suddenly shrinks or disappears altogether.
Yikes. That would be a major problem.
Exactly. Plus, there's the whole issue of, economic disparity. Are those tourism dollars actually benefiting everyone in Cuba, or are they just staying within a very small elite bubble?
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's not just about bringing in money. It's about making sure that money benefits everyone, not just a select few.
Absolutely. And that's why I find this other path, the one focused on sustainability and cultural authenticity, to be so intriguing.
Yeah, let's talk more about that because it
Right.
does seem like a much more, I don't know, holistic approach to tourism.
Right. It's about playing the long game, building something sustainable, something with staying power.
So instead of just trying to recreate what other Caribbean destinations are doing, Cuba focuses on what makes it unique.
Exactly. And what's really exciting is that this whole approach aligns really well with those global trends we were talking about earlier. Like travelers wanting authentic, off the beaten path
Oh,
experiences.
totally. Especially younger generations. They seem much more interested in exploring a place's culture and connecting with locals than just, hitting the tourist traps.
Absolutely. And that's where those academic perspectives we talked about come into play, like that doctoral thesis that argued for moving away from mass tourism. That's right in line with this whole idea of sustainability and authenticity.
It's like they're saying, hey, we have something truly special here. Let's share that with the world, but let's do it in a way that preserves it, that honors it.
Exactly. And the best part, it's not just theoretical. We see those tourism students, the future of the industry, really embracing these ideas. They're all about innovation and collaboration, finding new and creative ways to showcase Cuba's unique charm.
So let's build another resort and more. Let's create an app that connects travelers with local artisans.
Right. It's about showcasing the real Cuba, giving travelers a glimpse into the heart and soul of the island.
Okay, I'm sold. But how do we actually bridge that gap between like these amazing ideas and actually making them a reality?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, imagine those tech-savvy tourism students creating apps that connect travelers directly with local guides, like family-run restaurants, artisans, all those hidden gems you'd never find in a typical guidebook.
Okay, yes. I love that. Those can't miss experiences that you
Yeah.
only hear about from locals.
Exactly. It's about creating those genuine connections, those experiences you remember long after you've left a place.
It's about making memories, not just buying souvenirs.
Exactly. And the beauty of it is that these efforts could be supported by the Ministry of Tourism. They could
Yeah.
use their resources to really get the word out about these amazing local initiatives, promoting them not just to tourists, but to the world.
Yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
We can't forget about those challenges we were talking about earlier. The supply chain problems, the
Yeah.
infrastructure issues.
Right. Those are definitely factors that can't be ignored.
It's like you can have the most amazing vision, the most innovative ideas, but if you can't actually get people to your destination, or if the infrastructure isn't there to support them once they arrive, it's going to be an uphill battle.
Right. Those challenges are real and they need to be addressed, but.
There's that but again.
But here's where things get really interesting. What if we shifted our perspective a bit? What if, instead of viewing these challenges as insurmountable obstacles, we saw them as opportunities?
Okay, now you're really piquing my curiosity.
Hmm.
How do we turn challenges into opportunities?
Well, think about it. Addressing those infrastructure issues, that creates jobs. It stimulates the local economy and the need for skilled workers. That's a chance to invest in education and training programs.
So it's like taking a problem and turning it into a solution.
Precisely. It's about taking a more holistic approach, one that considers not just the needs of the tourism industry, but the needs of the Cuban people as well.
So it's not just about attracting tourists. It's about creating an environment where both tourism and the Cuban people can thrive.
Exactly. And that's why I think this whole deep dive has been so illuminating. It's not really about choosing between luxury tourism or sustainable tourism. It's about finding that sweet spot where they can both coexist, where they can actually complement and support each other.
So as we kind of wrap up this part of our deep dive, what's the one big takeaway we want to leave people with?
Hmm, that's a good question. I think the biggest takeaway here is that the true measure of Cuba's tourism success isn't just about how many tourists they attract each year.
Right, it's about more than just numbers.
Exactly. It's about the well-being of its people, the vibrancy of its culture, the health of its environment. It's about thinking long-term.
It's about creating a legacy, not just a profit margin. It's about thinking of the bigger picture.
Yeah, exactly. It's about looking beyond just like the immediate economic gain and really considering the long-term impact of tourism.
And that's something that seems to be resonating with travelers more and more these days, right? Like that desire to travel more consciously, more sustainably.
Absolutely. It's definitely a growing trend, especially like we were saying earlier with those younger
They
generations.
seem to really get it.
They do. They're the ones who are going to inherit this planet, so it makes sense that they'd be more invested in protecting it.
So what we're talking about here is a win-win, right? For travelers who want authentic, meaningful experiences, and for destinations like Cuba that are trying to figure out a path toward sustainable tourism.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between like showcasing what makes a place special while also protecting it.
And that's not always easy.
No, it definitely requires a conscious effort from everyone involved.
It's like a dance,
Yeah.
finding that rhythm where everyone's moving together in sync.
I like that analogy. So, where does Cuba go from here? What's the next step in this dance?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? But I think what's important is that they're having these conversations, that they're actively exploring these different paths.
Right. They're not just talking the talk, they're actually taking steps to make it happen.
Exactly. And, it's not just about Cuba, right? This whole idea of rethinking tourism, of making it more sustainable, more equitable, it's a global conversation.
Absolutely. It's something we all need to be thinking about no matter where we travel.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into the fascinating world of Cuban tourism, I think the biggest takeaway for me is this. Travel is a privilege,
It is
and with that privilege comes a responsibility.
to make sure that our travels benefit the places we visit and the people who call those places home.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about leaving a place better than we found it. And I think that's something we can all aspire to.